In South Jersey, we have a person called John who's waiting on line one to ask you a question. John, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Dr. Mecca, professor of Word Family. I was always told that jazz was a name given to the music that the French people heard when they went to New Orleans to see the ladies of the evening. And I was wondering if there was any truth to that. I'm going to hang up and take the answer over the radio. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Ladies of the evening. I wonder what that means. Professor Renee Prophet?
That word jazz used to mean to, cohabitate with the ladies of the evening. And that was stuck on the music. I guess because a lot of itinerant pianists played in the brothels and stuff. But
interesting.
That is exactly my point. That is a label that has been stuck on aspects of, our culture. We did not, as people, define what we do creatively is that. So what the gentleman is talking about is, in fact, factual. That's one of the stories of how it got labeled. But, as you know, during slavery, they branded us, they named us, and, I refute that label being stuck on me.
This is why we have this show, to educate the community.
As an artist,
yes,
and as people, we have to define who we are.
Correct.
And what it is we do.
I see. You listen to the voice of Renee Prophet McLean, a well-known international musician, instrumentalist who's played with so many bands. You name the bands, the great bands, and he was a member at some point in time. And this is the reason we have this show, to educate our community. So now the word itself, tracing its origin to prostitution, basically speaking, should be bothering most of us. We're going to go to, before we go on a short break, we're going to go on a short break right now. When we come back, we'll have Dennis in West Philadelphia have a conversation with us. Professor Prophet, just give us 1 minute. We'll be right back.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. Can you believe that you have 10,000 gifts? Maybe the pandemic slowed us down a bit to explore our gifts from God. Remember, we are whole persons, physical, intellectual, social, and spiritual. Yes, physical, intellectual, social, and spiritual. Discuss this healthy talk with your family and friends. Play some funky music. Pat your feet with joy. James Brown will do it. I feel good. And Papa's got a brand new bag, Night Train. Remember, try counseling or therapy to help in exploring your 10,000 gifts from God. When have you thought about this? A pandemic time from a loving God. Oh, you want to talk about your 10,000 gifts? Call me.
Black love is in the air.
This Valentine's Day, WURD Radio celebrates Black love. Black love is what keeps us united and moving forward. Let us know what Black love is to you. Show us how you show love to your family, friends, yourself, or of course, that special someone who makes your heart soar. Send us a photo of you and your loved one with the hashtag BlackLoveIs.
And let us know what Black love is to you.
Send the photo to social media at wordradio.com and we'll shout you out.
Stay connected to WURD Radio.
At onWURD on Facebook and at onWURD on Twitter and Instagram. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
And we're back. It's the Dr. Mecca Show, the show that educates in order to liberate. In today's edition of the show, our guest is played in Madagascar, Mauritius, Swaziland, Mozambique, Europe, Lebanon, Asia, Japan. He's a musician who is telling us now, listening, that the word jazz is problematic because of its pejorative beginnings, origins, so to say. We have Dennis. Dennis from Philadelphia. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Mecca, and to your guest, Professor
McLean, Prophet.
Yes, hey, I heard you say that you had with your family, you was introduced to so many musicians that came to your home, and you mentioned a person that played the piano. And you said he was a well-known pianist. And I wanted to know that were you ever introduced or met the group called a piano choir?
Piano choir.
Yeah, who was in that group?
They're a group of all musicians that played the keyboards and stuff only. And that was back in the 70s. And my other comment is that I love Hugo Sekila, and his wife. And I got introduced to him when he came out with The Boy Is Doing It.
Yes, I remember that.
One of my favorite songs. Yeah, I love that. And Blazing in the Grass.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that, when he did that.
No.
Those records?
No, bro, Hugh recorded Grazing the Grass. That was in the 60s. I wasn't in the band at that time, but it was part of the repertoire of music that we performed, yeah.
Okay. Did you contribute to any of his music, like submit some of your suggestions or compose or anything like that?
Very good question, Dennis. Thanks for your call. That's a good question. What contributions were you involved with in terms of Hugh Sekela's music, Professor Rene?
I'm on 3 albums with Brad Hugh.
Well, the albums.
Yeah, one of those albums is titled Live in Lesotho. Well, we made that trip to Southern Africa in 1980. And then there's another album entitled Home that was released in 82.
Yes, I have that, right.
Yeah, there's some of my music on that album.
I see, okay.
So, I was on the front line with you and I composed a lot of music that we played. We had a number of musicians as a band that contributed to the repertoire. Hotep Idris Gillette, the great South African pianist.
Yes.
And other people like Bobby Broom. And,
Hotep Galute. Hotep played, you played with Hotep, is that right?
Yes, we worked together for many years. About 40 years, yeah.
Oh, and he's the piano guy.
Yes, unfortunately, Hotep passed away some years ago.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. That's true. And a number of his songs on Brad Hughes' album, yeah.
Yes. I think 16th Street or 19th Street, I'm not sure exactly. That was a particular album where he mentions his name in passing. 13th,
yeah.
We're having a conversation with Professor Rene Prophet McLean. He's a legendary musician. And for one thing though, you're saying the word jazz should never be used anymore in the music industry, but everybody uses that term. So how do we eradicate that? What's the process?
My point is, we're stuck with it.
Yeah.
But it's used purely for the purposes of commodification of the music.
I see.
That it's sold under that, like you sell pizza. It's sold under that title. But as far as the word itself, does not have any aesthetic meaning or definition of what the music is.
But it's actually much more problematic when we know the origin of it. Somebody had mentioned, and you agreed, that it doesn't have a very good, history
it's
behind
also
it.
a word that it's also used within the context of, oh, well, don't give me all that jazz.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
nonsense, okay? So
I see.
what are we saying? Like I said, it doesn't denote what the music is or define what it is. If you're talking about Duke Ellington, you have to talk about the music of Duke Ellington. If you talk about Thelonious Monk, you have to talk about the music of
Thelonious Monk.
Thelonious Monk.
I see. But what about classical African?
Bach, we talk about the music of Bach. Yeah.
I see. Somebody had mentioned, and I don't know if you agree with that, that it should be called classical African American music or classical African music. Do you have a quarrel with that?
African American classical music. No, I don't. All cultures have a classical music.
I see. Professor Rene McLean is with us. He's a professor of music at Hartford University. He has played music. He's played his instruments with people like Dizzy Gillespie, Lionel Hampton, Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba, Tito Puente. Tell us a little bit about Tito Puente. You worked with him.
I spent many years with the Tito Puente Orchestra. In the 70s, I also worked with Machito's band. I also performed with Tito Rodriguez's band. I worked many years on that, Latin music, Afro-Cuban music, community, playing in those groups with many of them.
You say, Professor Rene Prophet, that your music transcends boundaries. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that music is a universal language.
Okay.
A universal means of communication. And I've been blessed to play in all sorts of situations within the Pan-African musical community, whether it's Latin music, whether it's calypso band, my family's from the Caribbean.
Okay.
Antigua, Curacao, Santo Domingo. So that's all there on my palette. That's what I've experienced. Though, I grew up and was rooted in the bebop tradition, but it's a root of this vast complex of the genres of African American and Pan African music.
Okay.
And growing up in New York, we have all those communities there. I grew up on the Lower East Side, and I played with all sorts of bands, R&B bands.
Mm-hmm. In closing, Professor Rene Prophet, tell us what kind of legacy did your friend Hugh Masekela, who you played with, leave behind in terms of music and culture?
Well, Brother Hugh has left an immense legacy in terms of his activism, in terms of his music and life-giving voice to that activism, and also as an instrumentalist, as a trumpet player. He's unique in his own right. He has his own sound that's uniquely identifiable as Hugh Masekela. As soon as you hear it, just like Miles Davis had a sound. As soon as you hear it, you know it's Miles. As soon as you hear it, you know it's a Dizzy. And Miles is the one that told Bro Hugh early on. He said, "Bro Hugh, don't follow behind. I know you've been influenced by all of us and what we're doing. So the best thing you can do is be who you are and play your music.
Interesting.
And that's what made Bro Hugh famous.
I see.
He
I didn't know.
his identity and his music and where he comes from, and that's what sets him apart from everybody else on the planet.
We're having a conversation with Professor Rene Prophet. He's a professor of music, African classical music at Hartford University. Brother Rene Prophet himself has performed all over the world. He's one of those world-renowned multi-instrumentalists. He plays the alto, tenor, soprano, saxophone, and just a few hours ago I saw him playing the flute. Is the flute and the saxophone, how do they relate to each other? Is it different rhythm?
Well, they're both, they're both wind instruments.
Yes.
But, the flute is one of the oldest instruments in the world. You can see depictions of the flute, or the ney, they call them, on the tombs in the pyramid.
Right.
So some of them are made out of reeds, and I play naturally the regular, brass flute, but I also play a host of other traditional bamboo flutes from around the world, from Japan, like the shakuhachi.
Yeah.
And also the ney. You find neys all over the Middle East, North Africa, Ethiopia. You find different forms of them.
I see.
So I kind
of
my hobby is collecting them.
We have less than 30 seconds left, and my question for you as we close is, what message do you give? This is Black History Month, to the young people coming up in terms of music, African American music, African music, would you say?
Well, my advice to them is to listen to everything. And know who you are, embrace your culture and your identity, and explore the world of this vast palette of Pan-African music. It's universal. So I listen to everything.
Well, we know that's it. That does it for today. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Professor Rene Prophet, for taking time to be with us today. We appreciate this. We will come back again to give you wisdom about this music thing, classical African music, classical African American music. We want to thank you for taking time to be with us today on our radio show, Professor Rene.
Thank you, Dr. Mecca. It was a pleasure being here with you this afternoon, and all of you out there. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, and enjoy the weekend. That has been the voice of Professor Rene Prophet. He's an ace, world-renowned professor. Call it jazz music, it's fine, but he says that's not good. And he's been with us for the past 55 minutes to talk to us about contributions of Hugh Masekela into music. He played with him, and his own musical experiences and his own contributions to music, black music, essentially black music. That does it for us for today, and I want to thank you, all of you, Boss Mike, for being the great engineer you've always been, and I want to thank all of you who listen to the show. We'll be back next week with relationship between African-American men and women. A specialist will be here with us. The family therapist will be our guest for that for the next week. And until then, take good care of yourself. And if you see someone with that compassion, please give him or her one of yours, because it's the right thing to do. I'll see you next week. Take good care of yourself this weekend. Bye-bye now.